lover and I moved to San Francisco and continued our psychedelic adventures out there. It certainly affected my life in a way that it still does on a daily basis. I see nature spirit as constantly present. If you know how to attune yourself to it and respect it, it can reveal all sorts of things to you that would be good to know to make this transition we're involved. For all of us, individuals and as a culture. Again, I don't think we have a choice except disaster to move toward loving and sharing and caring and understanding that we all deserve respect, we all deserve clean water, we all deserve good food, we deserve love and comfort and companionship. We deserve to have somebody with you that die when you're dying so that you can exit this realm gracefully instead of being stuck in a box with strangers and things stuck into your body to keep you alive till the last moment. We should be preparing for our deaths. Once you bury your friends and your family, death takes on a very important role in helping you make decisions, choices. It does me. I want to stay up all night and read this book tonight.
Yeah, you want to borrow that?
I don't ever borrow books that somebody's reading, but I'll borrow this one.
Yeah. It's kind of my...
Have you already read it?
No, it's kind of my amulet at the moment. It's like a totem I carry with me to keep this project going, but I'd let you borrow that as long as you bring it back to me soon enough.
I turned to psychedelics after being in family mode. I basically quit doing psychedelics. And I only did them for 15 years. I only did them maybe 3 or 4 times, and only if my children were in another city where I couldn't be the emergency phone call contact. I basically had to do without it. And, what was I going to tell you?
Synchronicity.
The synchronicity. Oh, yeah, and since I've been back into the psychedelic realm, I've had this chain of just bizarre, synchronistic kind of physical experiences where I'll casually pick something up. I pick up a lot of objects like rocks and found objects, and I look through junk piles looking for stuff all the time. And so I'm really sensitive to unusual objects, and I'll pick up something sometimes just to look at it and then just casually toss it off in some random direction. And I've had an experience maybe 20 times where I've done essentially what I just described with an object and thrown it, and it's landed on the edge of something or on a tiny little point of itself, balanced in a place that's just utterly impossible. Like throwing this and it finding some resting spot like this and just going like this in front of me. And I've had it happen at least a dozen times in front of my children, which is something of a clue to me. And I'll like throw something way up in the air, and they can come down and they'll catch themselves in the most peculiar place where they're just delicately almost floating. And I don't know what to make of that. Yeah. I have no idea what to make of it. It's happened here in this place a few times, and I've just been like, what is that? Sometimes I can almost sense it's going to happen. You know, just throw something in the air. I was standing at I was on a road trip, and I was at a gas station, and there was this guy pulled up in a great big old pickup truck and rumbling loud and parked right next to me, and he went inside, and I was staying outside and drinking some water or something, and when he came back out, he kind of nodded at me, and he put his Coke on the fender of his truck, and he was going to light a cigarette or something, and the Coke rolled off the edge of the truck. It bounced off its lid off his bumper, and then landed right side up, right between us on the ground, like it had been like planned to do it. And he looked at me like I was some kind of fucking shaman. It was this cowboy out in this middle of nowhere road, and he looked at it like I had made it happen, and I was like, maybe I don't know what happened, dude. But I've had that happen to me over and over again, where something will happen in front of people, And they'll just think, wow, in my whole life I've never seen anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say, yeah, I know, I've seen about 20 of them.
I like how Terrence would have those things happen to him, then he would bring somebody else to show them, and it wouldn't happen.
Yeah. Well, that's part of it. You're not going to be able to demand it. The book True Hallucinations and the whole thing when they're out in the jungle and this climatic moment where this kind of Hollywood UFO shows up. And what I like the most about that story is that part of it is how sort of cartoonish it can be and still have this resonance of the sacred and the awesome. Mm-hmm. So it's a very tricky realm.
Yeah.
You can go from the sublime to the cartoon very quickly, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. When we watch so many cartoons as children, it comes to us in the ways we can understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Often uses certain motifs and archetypes that we'll be able to actually get some information from. A lot of people see their visions in cartoon forms.
Yeah. A very long time ago, Mondo 2000 was this cool psychedelic magazine. It was before Wired and really before the internet was fully accessible to most people, like before there were browsers and stuff. And somebody wrote an article that I got to illustrate on the cartoon experience in psychedelia. And I thought about it a lot since then. I've had some of those. I had one very weird experience. I was in the middle of the afternoon staying in this beautiful cabin out in the woods in Marin with my lover. We were the only two people there. I was washing dishes in the middle of the afternoon, not tripping, not altered in any major state. And I had this incursion, a hallucinatory incursion that was very LSD-like. And this couple, a cartoon couple, was inviting me to a dialogue and that they had a proposition for me. And I had to go sit down, and I got in a calm place, and I tried to engage these barely present beings, and the more present they became, the more clear that they were these cartoons of hippies. And they told me, this is the best we can do right now in terms of how we're trying to project ourselves and where you're at and all this. But here's the proposition anyway. We're a erotically charged couple that were high on an LSD trip and out of our bodies, living in the Haight-Ashbury, and a meth lab blew up underneath us while we were out of our bodies, and our bodies died. And I went and did research on this, and there was a big deal, like White Panthers group that was a spin-off with the Hells Angels, that did have a blow up in the Haight-Ashbury, and people were killed. I don't know about a couple. And they said, we're in this in-between realm, and we're looking for another couple that will engage with us out of their bodies. And you guys are doing that, and we were wondering if you'd be interested in hooking up a foursome, essentially. And my wife came in and was like, what's going on? And I told her I'm having this bilocation experience. I'm in this world with these people that are approaching me and asking me if, I explained the story to her, but I was also in the log cabin, being able to talk to my partner, and we were like, wow, that's really interesting. And we both agreed we weren't interested in trying it.
You
but
never know what kind of deities are masking themselves as something else.
Who knows what was really going on. Especially since I wasn't tripping, it felt like, what the heck? How did they even get in here, And if not that, if it's me, how did I get to there?
Right,
how did I get to this weird place where I'm talking to myself about...
Been to some places like that.
Yeah, the trickster thing is huge.
It seems like when you come across some of these stories I've been hearing is that they want to trade.
Yeah.
And, it's not necessarily a good thing to trade. If they offer you something, you have to be careful what you're exchanging.
Yeah.
Because you can acquire some parasitical energy.
I think you can.
In altered states, or especially when you're blacked out drunk or in some sort of irresponsible position. And I've done that a lot in my life where I was just blast it open and not being responsible about my energies. And
Who knows?
I think when I got into like serious alcoholism at some point, then it was, people would say to me like, whatever was there last night was not you. You're possessed in some way. And I had to take that into consideration. And so when I finally did address those issues and get to a point where I was, just done with that substance, I still had lingering entities that were probably looking for an opportunity to come out. Well, at least I took it into consideration because I wanted to make sure that I wanted to take accountability for my actions and not put it off on, say, a spirit that was in me. But when I finally got around to ayahuasca, I took the opportunity to ask anything that wasn't benign to leave. And I did notice something in there that was, possibly hanging on, go at that moment. So I think when you get approached by, say, spirits or ghosts that are making propositions, just be careful what you trade with them. It's probably wise they didn't let them in.
I think that part of what happened to me that led me to this really terrifying ayahuasca thing was that my wife and I split up like 10 years before we ended up splitting up for good. For a couple of years she just left under bad circumstances, and she used to be a very high